Alright, Assalamu alaikum guys. I'm here in the car with my main man, my day one fan, one of my biggest fans, Face Hassan.
Yes.
Alright,
It's me.
perfect. So we're heading to watch the ABA game, and I wanted to talk about Kevin Durant. And I'm using Faisal as my test subject. I've talked about this before in videos. I don't know if I uploaded them or not. But,
I don't think so.
okay. Basically, my idea of team building,
Yes.
like in the NBA level, how to build a team. Right? And I say Faisal is an average NBA fan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Pretty decently knowledgeable, understands some ideas, but not like crazy knowledgeable about the intricacies of salary cap rules, trade negotiations, and free agency and stuff like that.
Nope. Not that much.
Yes. So that's why I wanted him here. I thought it would be good to have him here and we could talk about it together and go into a little bit of detail of why I think Kevin Durant and why I think even I complained about LeBron James's way of building teams, but why I think Kevin Durant's way of building teams is a pretty big failure in my opinion. Okay, so to start with, there's 3 ways, in my opinion, like to simply say, of how to acquire players.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Face? Okay. Or should I call you Little Hedge? No, Face is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The first way, which I think is the best way, and most, the best way to ever build a team, the most beneficial way, like all around the greatest way to do it, is by what I will generally call prospect scouting. Okay. Scouting, prospect scouting, whatever you would like to call it. Let's just call it scouting for simplicity. So by scouting, I mean I'm including drafting players, finding G League talent, finding development talent, finding players overseas, and then signing them right away. I'm including all that into scouting.
Yes.
Right? You know, guys like the teams like the Miami Heat are excellent at this. Right? You look at Duncan Robinson, you look at Max Strus, you look at Gabe Vincent. These are guys who were all drafted or undrafted very late, right? So that's what I call scouting. You do a good job of finding where are talented players, where are players with good, like, raw talent that you could then transform into good NBA players. Okay? Even you look at the Warriors, right? Drafting Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, even guys like Kevon Looney, developing them, like, that's what I call scouting. Because you scout them, you acquire them, whether it's through the draft or signing or however, okay?
I see.
So that's one way to acquire players. Second way is through free agency or through signing. So sign and trades, free agency, well, I'll put sign and trades a little bit in between, but signing them in free agency, buyouts, stuff of that nature, where you're signing them to a contract. And the reason I separate this from scouting is because I'm saying signing as in players who've already established themselves in the NBA. So for example, you know, free agency is just starting, and you know they're talking about Jalen Brunson's about to sign a contract with the New York Knicks for $110 million. Right? That's what I'm calling signing, not scouting. Right? Because Jalen Brunson was already an NBA talent, was already an NBA player, and now you're signing him in his free agency. Right? Or similarly, Blake Griffin, or no, John Wall just happened recently. He got bought out of his contract in Houston, right? He had a long contract in Houston, all right, for I think another 2 years.
Yep.
And so Houston and John Wall said, hey, Houston said, I'm not going to play you any minutes. And John Wall's like, well, I want to play. And so John Wall's like, all right, what do you want from me? He's like, we don't want to pay you that money. Houston says, I don't want to pay you the money. You being John Wall, me being Houston, the Rockets, right? And you're like, well, okay, trade me. I'm like, no team's going to take you because you got too much money on your contract. I can't trade you. I was like, okay, fine, buy me out. So then we agree upon a certain amount of money to pay you. I pay you that money, and you become a free agent. And then any team can sign you to a contract. Right? That's buyouts. So that's the second way. So first one is prospect scouting. Second one is free agency. Cool. Understand those basic ideas for business? Yep. All right. Third way is trades. As I mentioned with John Wall's example, you can trade a player, right? You know, there's sign and trades, which is kind of in between free agency and trades. Then there's also just, hey, I have this player, you're a player, let's switch these players, right? Basic idea of trades. Now, so what are the three phases? Give me one.
I just remember scouting
Excellent.
the bio thing.
Yeah,
And I don't remember the third one.
trades.
Yeah, trades.
Right, so you got scouting,
Yeah.
then free agency / signing.
Yes.
Signing players.
Yeah.
Right? And then thirdly is trades. Okay. So those are the three ways that a team can acquire players. Now, can you see a problem, or, for example, let's say talk about trades,
Yes.
right? Why would trades not substantially increase your team?
Good question. I'm not good at this. I'm not really good at this.
Okay. So let's think about it, right? So let's talk about in general, not even basketball. If you and I are trying to do a trade,
Mm-hmm.
right? Tell me something you trade besides basketball players.
Well, nowadays we would trade money because
Okay.
just money.
Yeah.
Then we would trade money.
Okay, so when you trade money, am I gonna give you more money than you're giving me?
If you're dumb enough, then yeah.
if I'm dumb enough, right?
Yes.
But generally speaking, trades are supposed to be equal.
Yeah.
You're supposed to get some benefit, I'm supposed to get some benefit.
Yes.
So that's the problem with trades, is that they're not going to substantially increase your team because both teams are supposed to be giving something of equal value,
Yes.
right? Now you can look in NBA history, Faisal, and find teams that they trade one player for another player, even if they traded away the better player, but because of fit or because of chemistry, because of, you know, the players were not getting along,
Yeah.
the new player made their team a championship team. I think the first example of that comes to my mind was one that happened before both of us were born. In 1988-89, the Detroit Pistons won the championship. They had a player, I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was something with a D. Dantley? I think Dantley was his name. They had a player, he was a great scorer. You know Carmelo?
Yeah.
He was kind of like a Carmelo type, right? He was a pure post scorer. You give him the ball in the post, he gets a bucket. Right? That's what he was. Adrian Dantley. That was his name. So he was a very good player, but the problem was him and the best player on the Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Thomas, did not really get along too well. Well, they did, but they didn't have a good fit. Adrian Dantley was a very good offensive player, but just like Carmelo, didn't really play defense, didn't really hustle hard. And Detroit was, you know, a hard-nosed team, right? They were a very defensive team. So they traded him for Mark Aguirre, who was at the time on the Dallas Mavericks, and also Isaiah Thomas's friend.
Yeah.
And so he bought into the system, and he was an all-star. Both of them were all-stars, so they were equal value. But Mark was not as good of a player, but because he was Isaiah Thomas's friend and he bought into the system, he worked very hard, he played good defense, and they won a championship that year based off that trade. So that does happen, but the problem is it's usually only beneficial for fit, not for I'm going to take a player and I'm going to transform my team into such a great team.
Yeah.
Right? If you want an example of, like you said, swindling a guy, finessing a guy, you can look at Boston and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
When Boston traded away Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, that's how Boston had the team they have now. Because Brooklyn gave them so many draft picks that they were able to turn those draft picks into great players like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, all these guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the issue with trades. Now, when it comes to free agent signing, the problem with that is also the benefit of drafting / scouting players. Okay, what do I mean by that? Let me ask you, Faith. Don't be afraid. You got it. You got it. Okay.
Are you asking me the questions? Could you repeat the question?
Sure. I was an idiot. If a team drafts a guy,
Yes.
okay, let's say like Zion,
Yes.
right, top pick in the draft. How long does Zion stay on his team?
So how long the contract ends?
You're right. You're absolutely right. And in the case of Zion, and most players who are drafted high in the first round, right, who are early draft picks, their contract is 2 years guaranteed, and then 2 years where the team has a team option, which basically means is if I like you, I'll say yes, you can stay on my team. If I don't like you, I'll let you go. No strings attached. Okay? But a guy like Zion is a good player, right?
Yeah.
So the team is going to say, yeah, I want you to stay for those 2 extra years. So now Zion got drafted to this team, and like you said, the length of his contract.
Yeah.
So 4 years. Okay. Then what happens to Zion?
Then he could get a new contract. He can go on another team. He
Right.
can cross the trade.
Yeah, absolutely. So he can be, now he's a free agent, right? So now he can sign a contract with a different team. I think DeAndre Ayton is actually a good example because his rookie contract, the contract that he signed when he first came to the NBA, just expired. And now he's becoming a free agent.
Yes.
So he has 3 options. Basically, one option is he can go to a different team, right? Now, in that option, you have 2 options where either you sign with the other team or you do a sign and trade. But let's ignore sign and trade for now. Let's say he signs with another team, right? He says, Phoenix, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go to New York. New York's a big market, you know, big stage, all this type of stuff, okay? The thing is, though, every rookie is what's called a restricted free agent. So they're a free agent, but they're restricted. Do you know what that means?
Restricted. So,
Alright, because this guy coming on our left is super buff.
then
If you saw his arms from the front, they were very massive. Anyway, okay. Do you know what a restricted free agent is?
restricted free agent. Well, it kind of has it in the name, so I'm guessing it's a free agent, but they're restricted to several teams, a couple of teams.
Exactly. They're restricted to the team that signed them.
Yes.
Meaning that, so for example, DeAndre Ayton or Zion Williamson, when their contract expires, if DeAndre Ayton wants to go to New York and sign a contract with New York, Phoenix has the choice to say, I'll match that contract. Whatever money they're paying you, whatever contract you agreed to them, I'm going to make you sign my contract. That's what a restricted free agent is called. That's the basic idea of a restricted free agent.
Yep.
So now let's talk about, again, Zion or DeAndre Ayton. You know, the max years they can sign for a different team is 4. Okay. So let's say he agrees to sign a 3 or 4 year deal with another team, and Phoenix says, no, you're coming right back here. So now Phoenix has now controlled DeAndre Ayton's career for his first 4 years, and then 3 or 4 more.
Yep.
Right? So that's one option. DeAndre Ayton could choose to sign with a different team. 2, he can choose to sign with his own team, and then he has a choice of signing a 5-year deal or a 4-year deal. Right? He could also sign a 3-year deal. Or, thirdly, and this is a little bit more complicated, he could choose to sign a qualifying offer. But instead of getting paid maybe $20, $25 million, he'd only get paid $10 million for 1 year. So instead of getting paid $25 million for 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, he can choose to sign a 1-year deal for only $10 million. And now Phoenix has to keep it for 1 more year, but then he becomes an unrestricted free agent, and he can go wherever he wants.
Yep.
So the issue with the qualifying offer is you get hurt, something happens to you, now your value goes down, you're not going to make as much money. So that's scary for some players. Right? So majority of people in history have done the 3-year deal. Right? I go to a different team for 3 years, and then Phoenix or whoever the original team was says, no, I'm going to match that, you're coming right back. You're not going anywhere. Right? Because they're restricted. So generally speaking, on average, the team will own the player, will have the rights to the player for 5 to even 9 years between them. Okay. Cool. Now, that was a little bit of background knowledge to why I think free agent signings are not the best way to build a team. So if I have the rights to you for even, let's say, 7 years, okay, and you come into the NBA at 20 years old, okay?
Yes.
So by the time that 7 years is done, how old are you going to be?
27.
27.
Yep.
And let's say you're an older player. You come in not 20, you come in 22. You're going to be 29.
Yeah.
And let's say you didn't sign to 3 years, you signed to 4 years. You're going to be 30. So you're looking at some age range between 27 to 31 years old when you finish your rookie and extension contracts. Okay? Now, 27 to 31 is what most people would say you're kind of in the prime of your physical ability and mental ability. Like, you're going to be the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
Your physical ability just started going down, but your mental ability just reached the top, right? So you're basically the best you're going to be. And so that window, you have to choose to sign a team. If you choose the wrong team, that team sucks, you're stuck. You have to request a trade. And the problem with trades is you try to get equal value, so the team is not going to be as great as you'd like it to be. You're not maximizing it. You're only going to go from one bad situation to another bad situation with like equal value teams.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my problem with free agent signings, is that usually the player that you're signing is already going to be a little bit older and out of their prime. And it's going to be tough for them to be the best version of themselves and get better in the system. It takes usually time and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of examples of where it worked out. 2008, the Boston Celtics, it worked out for them. Miami Heat, with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, they all became free agents and chose to sign with Miami. 2 out of 4 is pretty good. It worked out for them, right? But the reason I say that signing is bad is the same reason I say that drafting is good. Because I own the player for at least 7 years.
Yeah.
You are on my team for 7 years guaranteed. If you become a superstar, if you become a great player, I can continue to keep you on my team. That's why I think drafting and building and developing an own team is is a better strategy for team development than free agents and trading. And that's why I think Kevin Durant is dumb. Because instead of just going to whatever team is good or whatever team you think is going to be better, you should build your team. You should make the players on your team better. You should have a good franchise that finds good players and develops those good players. Like Jordan Poole. Even Draymond, he said it recently on JJ Redick's podcast, where he was like, Jordan Poole was almost out the league, but he put in the work, he worked together with the team, and became what he is today. What we see in the playoffs in the big moments. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Yeah. I don't think Kevin Durant should do what he's doing.
Be loud, bro, so they can hear you.
Yeah, I can't say it loud. I'm not loud in general. So, KD, what he's doing, I don't think it's pretty smart.
Yeah.
He already has Kyrie. Kyrie's pretty good.
Yeah.
They just need a little bit more, they just need more relationship. They just need to work together more
Yeah.
instead of doing a trade.
Yeah.
They should probably recruit more better players.
Sure.
Try getting, trading, the worst ones, because,
Yeah.
you don't need them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I believe. I don't think getting a trade is a good idea, but he can do whatever he wants, I guess.
That's true. He can do whatever he likes. He a grown man. He can make his own decisions. Yeah. Yeah. That's the basic idea. That's why I think like teams like Boston and Golden State, they were the 2 best teams in the NBA last season, right?
Yeah.
And all their players were players that they scouted, what I put under the category of scouting, right? Guys that they drafted, guys that they developed, and then you do trades to shore up the roster, right? Like Derek White to the Boston Celtics, right? That's a trade you do to round your roster, not to build the core. The core of your roster, I think, should be done through development and scouting. Then some side pieces you hope to find through scouting and development, and then you use trades to round it out. That's the way I look at it. Obviously, the problem with drafting, scouting, finding talent is that it's not a science. It's very, very luck-based. By luck, I just mean it's a probability thing, Like, you're not always going to find a Jordan Poole, right? The Warriors have had how many players come through the team, and only one Jordan Poole, right? They got Steph, they got Clay, they got Dre. Cool. But they had Festus Ezeli, who was a decent player, but not that level.
And not that good.
Yeah. Then you get other guys like Damian Lee. He's not that level. He's not Jordan Poole. I mean, they had a bunch of guys on the bench that you can look at. They drafted, they scouted, they found. But again, it's not a science. It's you look for talent and you look for guys who are gonna work hard to get better. Yeah. So that's the problem with that method. But otherwise, that's already a 20-minute video to face us on.
Yes.
Inshallah, we're gonna make another one after watching the games.
Well, then we're gonna give our opinion on how they played.
Yes, sir.
Maybe it's the second worst game that Coach Shamres has ever seen.
Yeah, could be.
In the 16, turning into 17 years.
Yes.
This October.
Yeah, mashallah. See, that's why he's my #1 fan. Mashallah. He quoting me, bro. He quoting my videos on me. Mashallah, bro. That's something, man. Alright, guys. If you want to add anything?
Nope, that's it.
Alright. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Assalamu alaikum. Peace out.